First contact. The vast expanse of space stretched out before the UES Horizon, humanity's most advanced deep space exploration vessel. Captain Elena Reyes stood on the bridge, her dark eyes scanning the holographic displays surrounding her. The ship had been traversing uncharted territory for months, pushing the boundaries of human exploration further than ever before. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Aiden Chen from his station at Sensors, "I'm picking up an anomalous reading at the edge of our scanning range." Elena straightened, her interest piqued. "Can you identify it, Lieutenant?" Aiden's fingers danced over his console as he fine-tuned the sensors. It's a ship, Captain, but unlike anything in our database, I think we may have just made first contact." A hush fell over the bridge as the implications of Aiden's words sank in. Humanity had long wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now it seemed they had their answer. "Put it on screen," Elena ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a sleek silver vessel. Its design was organic, almost fluid, with no visible seams or propulsion systems. But what caught Elena's attention was the faint, pulsing glow emanating from the ship's hull, a clear sign of distress. "They appear to be in trouble," Elena murmured. She turned to her communications officer. "Ensign Patel, broadcast on all frequencies. Let's see if we can make contact." Ensign Amora Patel nodded, her hijab bobbing slightly as she worked. "Channel open, Captain." Elena took a deep breath. "This is Captain Elena Reyes of the United Earth Ship Horizon. We've detected that your vessel may be in distress. Do you require assistance?" Seconds ticked by with no response. Elena was about to try again when a burst of static filled the bridge, followed by a series of musical tones and clicks. "It's a language," Amira said excitedly. "The universal translator is working on it now." Moments later, a melodious voice filled the air. "Greetings, vessel of Earth. This is Science Officer Zara of the Lycerian exploration ship Starwaver. We are indeed in need of assistance. Our propulsion system has failed, and life support is failing." Elena's training kicked in immediately. "Understood, Starwaver. We're prepared to render aid. Can your ship dock, or should we prepare for emergency teleportation?" There was a brief pause before Zara responded. "Our docking systems are offline. We would be grateful for teleportation assistance." "Acknowledged," Elena replied. She turned to her first officer, Commander Jackson Davis. "Jack, prepare the quarantine bay for our guests. Dr. Yamamoto, I want you there to oversee any medical needs. Lieutenant Chen, scan their ship and prepare to beam them aboard." The crew sprang into action, a well-oiled machine despite the unprecedented nature of the situation. Elena felt a swell of pride in her team's professionalism. Minutes later, Aiden reported, "Captain, I'm detecting 4 life signs on the alien vessel. Initiating transport now." Elena watched as 4 shimmering columns of light appeared in the quarantine bay on her monitor. As the light faded, she got her first look at the Lycerians. They were humanoid, but with striking differences. Their skin ranged from pale lavender to deep indigo, with intricate, bioluminescent patterns swirling across their bodies. Large, almond-shaped eyes dominated their faces, pupils expanding and contracting like camera apertures. But most notably, a crown of delicate, translucent tendrils extended from their scalps, gently undulating as if underwater. One of the aliens stepped forward, her movements graceful despite the obvious fatigue in her stance. "I am Zara," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the ship's communications system. "On behalf of my crew, I thank you for your assistance, Captain Reyes." Elena nodded, studying the alien scientist. Zara's skin was a soft periwinkle, her tendrils glowing with a gentle blue light. There was an intensity in her gaze that spoke of keen intelligence and curiosity. "You're welcome, Zara," Elena replied. "We're glad we could help. Dr. Yamamoto will see to any medical needs you may have. Once you're cleared, we can discuss repairing your ship." As the medical team began their examinations, Elena turned to her chief engineer. Lieutenant Commander Ortiz, I want you to start analyzing the Star Waver. See what you can learn about their propulsion system and what might have caused the failure. Aye, Captain, Ortiz replied with a grin. I can't wait to get my hands on some alien tech. Over the next few hours, the Horizon's crew worked tirelessly to assist their alien guests. Dr. Yamamoto reported that while the Laserians were exhausted and mildly dehydrated, they were otherwise in good health. Their biology was fascinatingly different from humans, with a respiratory system that could process various atmospheres and a unique cardiovascular structure. Meanwhile, Ortiz and her engineering team pored over the scans of the Star Waver, marveling at its advanced technology. The propulsion system, in particular, seemed to operate on principles that pushed the boundaries of known physics. As the day cycle on the Horizon drew to a close, Elena decided it was time to properly welcome their guests. She made her way to the quarantine bay, where the force field had been lowered after Dr. Yamamoto declared it safe. Zara and her crew stood as Elena entered. Up close, the alien scientist was even more striking. She stood slightly taller than Elena, her movements fluid and graceful. Captain Reyes, Zara said, inclining her head, we cannot thank you enough for your kindness. Elena smiled warmly. It's our pleasure, Zara. Humanity has long hoped to make peaceful contact with other intelligent life. While we wish it had been under better circumstances, we're honored to meet you. Zara's tendrils rippled, their glow intensifying slightly. Elena wondered if this was a sign of emotion. The feeling is mutual, Captain. The Laserian Concordat has been aware of your species for some time, but our laws prevented us from making direct contact until your civilization achieved certain technological milestones. Elena's eyebrows rose. You've been watching us. Observing, Zara corrected gently. We believe in allowing species to develop naturally, without interference. But now that you've reached this stage of development, we can finally engage in cultural exchange. The implications of Zara's words were staggering. Humanity wasn't just making first contact, they were being welcomed into a larger galactic community. Elena's mind raced with questions, but she forced herself to focus on the immediate situation. We're eager to learn more about your people, Zara, Elena said. But first, let's focus on getting your ship operational. Our chief engineer, Lieutenant Commander Ortiz, has some questions about your propulsion system if you're willing to discuss it. Zara's eyes brightened. Of course. I'd be fascinated to compare our technological approaches. Perhaps together we can find a solution. As they walked to engineering, Elena couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. This was why she had joined the Exploration Corps, to push the boundaries of human knowledge and forge connections across the stars. In engineering, Ortiz was practically bouncing with excitement as she showed Zara the scans of the Star Waver. Your ship's design is incredible, she gushed. The way you've integrated organic and technological components is like nothing I've ever seen. Zara's tendrils rippled in what Elena was beginning to recognize as pleasure. Thank you. The Star Waver is one of our most advanced designs. The propulsion system uses a form of quantum entanglement to fold spacetime, allowing for faster-than-light travel without the need for traditional engines. Ortiz's eyes widened. Quantum entanglement on that scale. That's revolutionary. But wouldn't the energy requirements be astronomical? Ordinarily, yes, Zara agreed. But we found a way to harvest zero-point energy from subspace. It provides nearly limitless power for our needs. The two scientists quickly fell into a deep technical discussion that left Elena's head spinning. She excused herself, leaving them to their work, and returned to the bridge to update her crew. As she stepped onto the bridge, Commander Davis approached her. Captain, I've been in contact with United Earth Command. They're having a hard time believing we've made first contact. Elena chuckled. To be fair, Jack, I'm having a hard time believing it myself, but it's real, and we need to handle this situation delicately. The Lysarians could open up a whole new era for humanity. Jack nodded solemnly. Agreed, but there's something else you should know. Long-range sensors have picked up another ship heading our way. It's not Lysarian, and it's heavily armed. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The universe, it seemed, was about to become a lot more complicated. Estimated time of arrival? She asked, her mind already racing through potential scenarios. 6 hours at their current speed, Jack replied. Elena nodded grimly. All right. Let's hope we can get the Star Weaver operational before then. In the meantime, I want battle simulations run. If this newcomer turns out to be hostile, I want us prepared. As the bridge crew carried out her orders, Elena stared out at the stars. First contact had been humanity's dream for centuries. Now that it had finally happened, she was determined to ensure it led to a bright future for both species, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Little did Elena know that the true test of humanity's resilience and ingenuity was yet to come, sparked by an innocent mistake that would have far-reaching consequences for both humans and Lysarians alike. Cultural exchange. As the UES Horizon and the Lysarian vessel Star Weaver drifted side by side in the vastness of space, an impromptu cultural exchange blossomed between the two crews. Captain Elena Reyes had organized shifts to allow her crew members the opportunity to interact with their alien guests while still maintaining the ship's essential functions. In engineering, Lieutenant Commander Maria Ortiz and Zara worked tirelessly to understand and repair the Star Weaver's propulsion system. Their collaboration was a dance of ideas and theories, each building upon the other's knowledge. So, your quantum entanglement drive creates a local bubble of warped space-time? Ortiz asked, her eyes gleaming with excitement as she studied the holographic schematics Zara had provided. Zara's tendrils rippled in what Ortiz had come to recognize as an affirmative gesture. Precisely. By manipulating the quantum foam at a subatomic level, we can essentially slide through space-time without violating relativistic principles. Ortiz shook her head in amazement. It's brilliant, but I still don't understand what caused the failure. Zara's luminescent patterns dimmed slightly, a sign of concern. Neither do I, which is troubling. Our systems are designed with multiple redundancies. For everything to fail simultaneously, it's unprecedented. As they delved deeper into the problem, Ortiz couldn't help but marvel at the Lysarian approach to technology. Where human engineering often focused on overcoming natural laws, the Lysarians seemed to work in harmony with the fundamental forces of the universe. Meanwhile, in the ship's botany lab, Dr. Amelia Chen, the Horizon's xenobiologist, was engrossed in conversation with Nilara, the Star Weaver's life support specialist. The lab had been transformed into a vibrant display of Lysarian flora, each plant more alien and beautiful than the last. This is extraordinary, Dr. Chen breathed, carefully examining a shimmering, crystal-like flower. You're saying this single plant can produce oxygen, filter toxins, and provide essential nutrients. Nilara trilled softly, her indigo skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Yes, the stellar flora is a cornerstone of our life support systems. It evolved on our homeworld to survive extreme conditions and has been bioengineered over generations to meet our space travel needs. Dr. Chen's mind raced with the possibilities. The applications for long-term space exploration and colonization are staggering. Do you think it could be adapted for human use? Nilara's tendrils waved thoughtfully. Perhaps with some genetic modifications to account for your physiology. We would be glad to share our botanical knowledge with your people. As the scientific exchanges continued throughout the ship, cultural understanding deepened as well. In the mess hall, off-duty crew members gathered with the Lysarians, sharing meals and stories. Ensign Patel sat with Theros, the Star Weaver's navigator, both of them nursing cups of a sparkling Lysarian beverage that tasted like a mixture of honey and starlight. So, you navigate by sensing gravitational waves? Patel asked, fascinated. Theros nodded, his pale lavender skin shimmering. Our tendrils are highly sensitive to spatial distortions. With proper training, we can plot courses through the galaxy by feeling the gravitational pull of stars and planets. Pato leaned forward, her eyes wide. That's amazing. But doesn't it get overwhelming? There must be so much input. Theros chuckled, a melodious sound. It can be, at first, but we learn to filter the input, to focus on what's important. In many ways, I imagine it's similar to how you humans process visual information without being overwhelmed by every detail. Their conversation was interrupted by a burst of laughter from across the room. Lieutenant Chen was attempting to teach a group of Lozerians how to play poker, with hilarious results. I do not understand, one Lozerian said, her tendrils writhing in confusion. Why would you wish to deceive your companions during a recreational activity? Chen grinned, shuffling the cards. It's not about deception exactly. It's about strategy, reading your opponents, and a bit of luck. It's fun. The Lozerians exchanged glances, their bioluminescent patterns flickering rapidly in what seemed to be their version of non-verbal communication. Finally, one of them nodded. We will attempt to grasp this concept of bluffing. Please, deal the cards again. As the impromptu poker game continued, filled with more laughter than serious play, Captain Reyes entered the mess hall. She paused in the doorway, taking in the scene with a mixture of pride and wonder. This was what space exploration was all about, not just discovering new worlds, but new friends. She made her way to where Commander Davis was deep in conversation with Zara. As she approached, she overheard a snippet of their discussion. And so our society is structured around the concept of harmony, Zora was explaining. Every individual has a role to play, but that role is chosen based on personal aptitude and desire, not imposed by others. Davis nodded thoughtfully. It sounds almost utopian, but surely you must have conflicts, disagreements. Zora's tendrils waved in what Elena had come to recognize as a shrug. Of course, we are not a hive mind, despite what some might think based on our appearance. But we have developed methods of conflict resolution that focus on understanding and compromise rather than confrontation. Captain, Davis said, noticing Elena's approach. Zora was just explaining Lyserian's social structure. It's fascinating stuff. Elena smiled warmly. I'm sure it is. Zora, I hope my crew hasn't been bothering you with too many questions. We're an inquisitive bunch. Zora's skin brightened, her patterns swirling happily. Not at all, Captain. Your crew's curiosity is refreshing. We Lyserians value the pursuit of knowledge highly, and it's clear that humans share this trait. Speaking of knowledge, Elena said, her tone turning more serious, how are the repairs to the Starweaver progressing? Zora's luminescence dimmed slightly. Slowly, I'm afraid. The problem is more complex than we initially thought. Lieutenant Commander Ortiz and I have some theories, but we'll need more time to test them. Elena nodded, trying not to let her concern show. The unknown ship was still approaching, now just 4 hours away. I understand. Please don't let me interrupt your relaxation. We can discuss the repairs in more detail later. As Zara turned back to her conversation with Davis, Elena made her way to the replicator to get a coffee. She needed the caffeine to help her think clearly. The cultural exchange happening around her was everything she had ever dreamed of as an explorer. The wealth of knowledge being shared could advance human science and technology by decades, if not centuries, but the approaching ship cast a shadow over everything. Were they friend or foe? Another alien race coming to welcome humanity to the galactic community? Or a threat, drawn by the presence of the Starweaver? Elena sipped her coffee, her mind racing. They needed to get the Lyserian ship operational and soon. But even if they managed that, could she in good conscience send their new friends away when potential danger was approaching? As if sensing her thoughts, Zara appeared at her side. Captain, may I speak with you privately? Elena nodded, leading Zara to a quiet corner of the mess hall. What is it, Zara? The Lyserian scientist's tendrils writhed anxiously. There's something I need to tell you about the ship that's approaching. I believe I know who they are, and if I'm right, we may all be in grave danger." Elena felt her heart rate quicken. "Go on," she said, bracing herself for what was to come. As Zara began to explain, Elena realized that the universe was about to become far more complex and far more dangerous than she had ever imagined. The true test of humanity's place among the stars was about to begin. Accidental exposure. Captain Elena Reyes felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily on her shoulders as she listened to Zara's explanation. The approaching ship, according to the Laserian scientist, likely belonged to the Krell, a notoriously aggressive species known for their expansionist policies and advanced weapons technology. "The Krell have been at odds with the Laserian Concordat for centuries," Zara explained, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with anxiety. "They see our policy of non-interference with developing species as weakness. If they find us here, in contact with humanity—" Elena nodded grimly. "They might see it as an opportunity to strike at both our peoples." "Precisely," Zara confirmed. "We need to get the Starweaver operational as soon as possible, not just for our sake, but to protect Earth from becoming entangled in an interstellar conflict it's not prepared for." With renewed urgency, Elena and Zara made their way to engineering. The room was a flurry of activity, with human and Laserian engineers working side by side, holographic displays flickering with complex equations and schematics. Lieutenant Commander Ortiz looked up as they entered, her face smudged with grease, but her eyes bright with excitement. "Captain Zara, I think we've had a breakthrough." Zara's tendrils perked up. "You've isolated the cause of the failure?" Ortiz nodded enthusiastically. "We believe so. It seems that your quantum entanglement drive encountered a pocket of unusual subspace turbulence. It didn't just disrupt the drive, it created a cascade failure through your systems. Can it be fixed?" Elena asked, acutely aware of the ticking clock. "Yes, but it will require a complete realignment of the quantum matrix," Zara said, her tendrils waving as she examined the diagnostic readings. "It's delicate work. One wrong move, and we could destabilize the entire system." Elena squared her shoulders. "Then we'd better get it right the first time. What do you need?" For the next 2 hours, the engineering bay was a hive of focused activity. Human and Laserian technologies were merged in innovative ways, jury-rigging solutions that pushed the boundaries of both species' scientific understanding. As they worked, Elena couldn't help but marvel at the seamless cooperation between her crew and the Laserians. Despite their vast physiological and cultural differences, their shared thirst for knowledge and problem-solving bridged any gaps. Finally, Zara straightened up from the console she'd been hunched over. "I believe we're ready for the final sequence. This will reboot the quantum matrix and, if we've done everything correctly, bring our systems back online." Elena nodded. "Do it." Zara's slender fingers danced over the controls, her tendrils glowing brightly with concentration. The air seemed to thrum with tension as energy built up in the Starweaver systems. Suddenly, a warning klaxon blared. Red lights flashed across the engineering bay. "What's happening?" Elena demanded, raising her voice over the alarm. Ortiz's fingers flew across her console. "There's a power surge in the quantum matrix. It's overloading our systems." "Shunt the excess power to the auxiliary buffers," Zara called out, her usually melodic voice tight with stress. As the engineers scrambled to contain the surge, a panel on the nearby wall exploded in a shower of sparks. Elena instinctively threw herself in front of Zara, shielding the Laserian from the blast. In the chaos that followed, no one noticed the fine mist that sprayed from a ruptured conduit, settling on Zara's exposed skin. Finally, after several tense minutes, the alarms fell silent. The engineering bay was filled with the acrid smell of burned circuitry, but the crisis appeared to be over. "Status report," Elena called out, helping Zara to her feet. Ortiz looked up from her console, her face pale but relieved. "We managed to contain the surge, Captain. The Starweaver systems are coming back online. Zara's tendrils waved excitedly as she checked the readings. It worked. Our propulsion system is functional again. We can leave before the Krell arrive. Elena allowed herself a small smile of victory, but it quickly faded as she remembered the bigger picture. We're not out of danger yet. We need to figure out how to deal with the Krell. As if on cue, Commander Davis's voice came over the intercom. Captain to the bridge. The unidentified ship has increased speed. They'll be here in less than an hour. Elena turned to Zara. We need to go. Are you all right? The Lycerian nodded, but Elena noticed a slight tremor in her tendrils. I'm fine, just a bit shaken. Let's go. As they made their way to the bridge, Zara stumbled, catching herself against the wall. Her skin seemed to flush a deeper shade of periwinkle, and her bioluminescent patterns were pulsing erratically. Zara? Elena asked, concerned. Are you sure you're okay? I don't know, Zara admitted, her voice quavering. I feel strange, hot. My skin is tingling. A horrible suspicion dawned on Elena. The explosion in engineering, did any of that touch you? Zara's eyes widened in realization. Yes, I think so. But what? Elena hit her communicator. Medical team to the bridge immediately. Possible chemical exposure. By the time they reached the bridge, Zara was leaning heavily on Elena, her breath coming in short gasps. Her skin was now a vivid indigo, her bioluminescent patterns flashing in chaotic bursts. Dr. Yamamoto rushed onto the bridge moments later, medical scanner in hand. His eyes widened as he took in Zara's condition. What happened? As Elena quickly explained the situation in engineering, Dr. Yamamoto ran his scanner over Zara. His expression grew increasingly concerned as he read the results. Captain, he said gravely, it appears that Zara has been exposed to a significant dose of the XR5 compound. Elena felt her blood run cold. XR5 was a highly experimental performance enhancer developed for human soldiers. It was designed to temporarily boost strength, speed, and cognitive function, but its effects on Lycerian physiology were completely unknown. What can we do? Elena asked, watching as Zara's condition seemed to worsen by the moment. The Lycerian was now trembling visibly, her tendrils thrashing wildly. Before Dr. Yamamoto could respond, Zara let out a piercing cry. Her body went rigid, then began to convulse. As the medical team rushed to stabilize her, Elena felt a wave of guilt wash over her. In trying to protect Zara from the explosion, she had inadvertently exposed her to something potentially far worse. As the crisis on the bridge unfolded, the sensors beat insistently. The Krell ship was now visible, a dark, angular shape against the starfield, bristling with weapons. Elena found herself caught between two urgent crises, a dangerously ill alien guest and an approaching hostile force. The next few minutes would determine not just the fate of the Horizon and the Starweaver, but potentially the future of human-alien relations. With a deep breath, Elena straightened her uniform and turned to face the view screen. Whatever happened next, she knew that the true test of humanity's place in the galaxy was about to begin. Crisis management. The bridge of the UES Horizon was a maelstrom of activity. Medical staff huddled around the convulsing form of Zara, their voices urgent as they tried to stabilize her condition. Meanwhile, the tactical station blared warnings about the rapidly approaching Krell vessel. Captain Elena Reyes stood at the center of it all, her mind racing to find a solution that would save both her alien guest and her ship. She turned to Commander Davis, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Jack, open a channel to the Krell ship. Let's see if we can buy ourselves some time. As Davis worked to establish communication, Elena knelt beside Dr. Yamamoto. Doctor, what's her status? The physician's face was grim. It's not good, Captain. The XR5 compound is interacting with her alien physiology in ways we couldn't have predicted. Her neural activity is off the charts, and her body temperature is dangerously high. Elena's heart sank. Can you stabilize her? I'm trying, but our usual treatments aren't having much effect. We need to get her to sickbay for more intensive care. Just then, Davis called out, "Captain, I've established contact with the Krell vessel. They're demanding to speak with you." Elena squeezed Dr. Yamamoto's shoulder. "Do what you can for her. I'll handle the Krell." Standing tall, Elena faced the view screen as it flickered to life. The image that appeared made her suppress a shudder. The Krell were reptilian in appearance, with scales of deep crimson and eyes like burning coals. The one addressing her wore elaborate armor that seemed to pulse with energy. "I am War Commander Zex Krell of the Krell Dominion," the alien growled, its voice a guttural rumble. "You will explain your presence in this sector and your association with the Lycerian vessel." Elena met the Krell's gaze unflinchingly. "I am Captain Elena Reyes of the United Earth Ship Horizon. We are on a mission of peaceful exploration and encountered the Lycerian vessel in distress. As is our custom, we offered assistance." Zex Krell's eyes narrowed. "The affairs of the Lycerians are none of your concern, human. You will withdraw immediately and allow us to deal with these meddlers." "I'm afraid I can't do that, War Commander," Elena replied, her voice firm. "The Lycerians are under our protection. Any hostile action against them will be considered an act of war against Earth." It was a bluff, and a dangerous one at that. Earth was in no position to wage interstellar war, but Elena hoped that the Krell's unfamiliarity with humans might make them hesitate. Zex Krell bared its teeth in what might have been a smile or a snarl. "You dare to threaten the Krell Dominion? Your species is young and weak. Stand aside, or be destroyed along with the Lycerians." The view screen went dark, and Elena turned to her tactical officer. "Status of the Krell ship." "They're charging weapons," Captain Lieutenant Ramirez reported. "Their technology is significantly advanced. Our shields may not hold against a sustained assault." Elena's mind raced. They couldn't outfight the Krell, and with the Starwaver still not fully operational, they couldn't outrun them either. They needed another option. Suddenly, a commotion from the medical team caught her attention. Zara had stopped convulsing and was now sitting up, her eyes wide and glowing with an otherworldly light. "Captain," Zara called out, her voice resonating strangely. I can see them. The Krell. I can see inside their ship." Elena approached cautiously. "Zara, what do you mean?" The Lycerian's tendrils were writhing with energy, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing in complex, never-before-seen configurations. "The XR5, it's enhanced my natural abilities. I can project my consciousness, interface with technology at a distance. I can see the Krell's tactical systems, their life support, everything." A wild idea formed in Elena's mind. "Zara, if you can see their systems, can you influence them?" Zara's glowing eyes met Elena's. I think so, yes." "All right," Elena said, her decision made. "Here's what we're going to do." Over the next few minutes, Elena outlined her plan to the bridge crew and Zara. It was risky, borderline insane, but it was their best chance at survival. As the Krell ship moved into weapons range, Elena opened a channel once more. "War Commander Zex Krell, this is your final warning. Withdraw now or face the consequences." The Krell leader's laughter boomed through the speakers. "Empty threats, human. Prepare to be." Zex Krell's words cut off abruptly as Zara, her face contorted in concentration, reached out with her newly enhanced abilities. On the view screen, the lights on the Krell ship flickered. "Now, Lieutenant Ramirez," Elena commanded. The Horizon's phasers lashed out, not at the Krell ship's weapons or shields, but at specific points Zara had identified: power relays, life support nodes, and other critical but non-lethal systems. Inside the Krell vessel, chaos erupted. Artificial gravity failed, life support systems went haywire, and weapon controls locked up. Elena watched on the tactical display as the massive ship began to drift powerless. "Channel open," Davis reported. "War Commander," Elena said, allowing a note of steel to enter her voice. "As you can see, We are not as weak as you assumed. Your ship is currently at our mercy. Are you prepared to discuss terms, or shall we finish this?" There was a long pause before Zexkrol's voice came through, noticeably less arrogant than before. You have made your point, human. We will withdraw." Elena allowed herself a small smile. "A wise decision. You will power down all weapons and withdraw to a distance of at least 5 light years. Any aggressive action will be met with immediate retaliation. Is that understood?" "Understood," Zexkrol growled reluctantly. As the Krell ship slowly retreated, the bridge crew of the Horizon let out a collective breath they hadn't realized they'd been holding. Elena turned to Zara, who was slumped in her seat, looking exhausted but triumphant. "Thank you, Zara," Elena said softly. "You saved us all." Zara's tendrils waved weakly. "I'm glad I could help. But Captain, I don't think this is over. The changes the XR5 has caused in me, they're still happening. I can feel it." Elena nodded gravely. "Dr. Yamamoto will do everything he can to help you. But you're right, this isn't over. The Krell will be back, and Earth needs to be prepared. The galaxy is a far more complex and dangerous place than we ever imagined." As Zara was taken to sickbay for further treatment and observation, Elena turned her attention to the monumental task ahead. She needed to report to Earth Command to prepare them for the realities of interstellar politics and conflict, and somehow she needed to find a way to balance humanity's desire for exploration and knowledge with the need to protect themselves in a universe that had suddenly become much larger and more perilous. The first contact that had begun with such hope and excitement had now thrust humanity onto a galactic stage they were ill-prepared for. But as Elena looked around at her crew, human and Lyserian working side by side, she felt a spark of hope. Together, perhaps they could forge a path forward, navigating the stars and the complex web of alien alliances and enmities. The real challenge, Elena realized, was just beginning. Unexpected consequences. In the days following the confrontation with the Krell, the UES Horizon hummed with a mixture of tension and excitement. The ship remained on high alert, wary of another Krell incursion, while simultaneously buzzing with the implications of their recent experiences. Captain Elena Reyes stood in the observation lounge, staring out at the stars as she composed her report to Earth Command. How could she possibly convey the magnitude of what had transpired? First contact, interstellar politics, and now the transformation of their Lyserian guest into something more. The door chimed, interrupting her thoughts. "Enter," she called. Dr. Yamamoto stepped in, his face a mixture of concern and awe. "Captain, I have an update on Zara's condition." Elena turned to face him. "Go ahead, Doctor." "It's remarkable," Yamamoto began, struggling to find the right words. "The XR5 compound hasn't just enhanced her existing abilities. It's fundamentally altering her physiology at a cellular level. Her neural pathways are reconfiguring, forming new connections we can barely comprehend." Elena frowned. "Is she in any danger?" "Surprisingly, no," Yamamoto replied. "Her body seems to be adapting to the changes. In fact, she's thriving. But Captain, the abilities she's developing, they're beyond anything we've ever encountered." As if on cue, the ship's comm system crackled to life. "Bridge to Captain Reyes." Commander Davis's voice came through, tinged with urgency. "Go ahead, Commander," Elena responded. "Captain, you need to come to the bridge immediately. There's something you need to see." Elena exchanged a glance with Dr. Yamamoto before hurrying to the bridge. As the turbolift doors opened, she was met with a sight that took her breath away. Zara stood at the center of the bridge, her body surrounded by a shimmering aura of energy. Holographic displays danced around her, showing star charts, ship schematics, and streams of data in both human and Lyserian languages. "Captain," Zara said, her voice resonating with newfound power. "I've made contact with the Lyserian Concordat." Elena's eyes widened. "But we're light years from Lyserian space. How?" Zara's tendrils waved, causing the holographic displays to shift. The XR5 has enhanced my natural telepathic abilities far beyond their normal range. I can now communicate across vast distances, tapping into the quantum substructure of space-time itself. The implications were staggering. Elena struggled to keep her voice steady. What do the Concordats say? They're concerned, Zara admitted. The encounter with the Krell has accelerated their timetable. They believe it's time for Lyserian Concordat to take a more active role in galactic affairs, starting with formal diplomatic relations with Earth. Commander Davis let out a low whistle. Well, that's one way to get fast-tracked into the galactic community. Elena nodded, her mind racing. Zara, can you arrange a direct communication between Earth Command and the Lyserian leadership? Already done, Captain, Zara replied, a hint of pride in her voice. They're standing by. As Elena prepared to facilitate humanity's first official diplomatic contact with an alien government, alarms suddenly blared across the bridge. Multiple ships dropping out of warp. Lieutenant Ramirez called out from tactical, Krell signatures, and others I don't recognize. The view screen flickered to life, showing a terrifying sight. A small fleet of Krell warships hung in space before them, weapons charged. But behind them, an even larger array of ships shimmered into view, sleek, organic-looking vessels that seemed to glow with internal light. The Lyserian Defense Fleet, Zara breathed. They must have followed my telepathic signal. Elena straightened her uniform, squaring her shoulders. In the span of a few days, her mission of exploration had turned into a potential flashpoint for interstellar war. But as she looked around at her crew, human and Lyserian alike, she saw not fear, but determination. Open a channel to all ships, Elena commanded. As the comm officer complied, she took a deep breath. This is Captain Elena Reyes of the United Earth Ship Horizon. We stand at a crossroads, a moment that will define the future of multiple species. I implore all parties to stand down and engage in peaceful dialogue. The galaxy is vast, with room for all of us to coexist and thrive. Let us not begin our journey among the stars with bloodshed. As her words echoed across space, Elena felt the weight of history on her shoulders. The next few moments would determine not just the fate of her ship, but potentially the course of human history and the balance of power in this sector of the galaxy. Zara stepped forward, her enhanced abilities allowing her to broadcast on all frequencies simultaneously. As a representative of the Lyserian Concordat and a witness to humanity's potential, I second Captain Rey's call for peace. Let us forge a new path together. The tense standoff stretched on for what felt like an eternity. Then, slowly, the weapons on the Krell ships powered down. A new signal came through, the Lyserian High Council, ready to begin negotiations. As the diplomatic talks began, with the Horizon serving as a neutral ground, Elena couldn't help but marvel at the strange twists of fate that had led them to this point. An accidental exposure had transformed Zara into a bridge between worlds, catalyzing a shift in the galactic status quo. The future was uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. But as Elena watched humans, Lyserians, and even reluctant Krell representatives gathering to chart a new course, she felt a surge of hope. Perhaps this was humanity's true destiny, not just to explore the stars, but to help forge a more united and peaceful galaxy. As the negotiations continued, Elena knew that the greatest challenges and adventures still lay ahead. But for the first time since this whirlwind began, she felt ready to face whatever the universe had in store. New horizons. The following weeks aboard the HFY Horizon were a whirlwind of activity. The ship had become an unlikely nexus of interstellar diplomacy, hosting representatives from Earth, the Lyserian Concordat, and even a reluctant delegation from the Krell Dominion. Captain Elena Reyes found herself thrust into the role of mediator, navigating the complex web of alien politics with a combination of intuition, diplomacy, and the occasional firm stand. At the center of it all was Zara, her enhanced abilities proving invaluable in bridging the gaps between species. Her capacity to facilitate instantaneous communication across vast distances had revolutionized the negotiations, allowing for real-time consultations with governments light years away. One evening, as Elena sat in her ready room reviewing the latest draft of the Interspecies Accord, her door chimed. "Enter," she called, looking up to see Zara glide in, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing gently. "Captain," Zara greeted her, a warm smile on her alien features. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Elena set down her datapad, returning the smile. "Not at all. How are you feeling?" Zara's tendrils waved in a gesture Elena had come to recognize as thoughtful consideration. "I'm adapting. Each day brings new discoveries about my enhanced abilities. It's exhilarating and terrifying in equal measure." Elena nodded sympathetically. "I can only imagine. Have Dr. Yamamoto's treatments helped with the side effects?" "Yes, thankfully," Zara replied. "The headaches have subsided, and I'm learning to control the influx of sensory information." She paused, her expression growing serious. "But that's not why I'm here, Captain. I've received a communication from the Lycurian High Council. They've made a decision that will affect both our peoples." Elena leaned forward, her interest piqued. "Go on." "The Council has decided to establish a permanent embassy on Earth," Zara announced. "They believe that humanity's response to first contact, particularly your handling of the Krell situation, demonstrates your species' potential as galactic partners." Elena's eyes widened. This was a monumental step, far beyond what she had hoped for when this journey began. "That's incredible news, Zara. But why do I sense there's more?" Zara's tendrils rippled with what Elena now recognized as nervous energy. "They've asked me to serve as the first Lycurian ambassador to Earth." "Congratulations," Elena exclaimed, genuinely happy for her friend. But as she studied Zara's expression, she realized the Lycurian's feelings were mixed. "You're not sure if you want to accept." Zara sighed, a surprisingly human gesture. "I'm honored, of course, but I'm also afraid. My exposure to XR5 has changed me in ways we're still discovering. I'm no longer fully Lycurian, but I'm not human either. I exist in a unique space between our species. Is that really the best choice for an ambassador?" Elena stood, moving around her desk to place a comforting hand on Zara's shoulder. "Zara, I can't think of anyone better suited for the role. Your unique perspective, bridging both our worlds, is exactly what we need to forge a lasting alliance." Zara's bioluminescent patterns brightened at Elena's words. "Thank you, Captain. Your faith in me means a great deal." "Please call me Elena," she replied warmly. "We've been through too much together to stand on ceremony." As they continued to discuss the implications of this new development, the ship's comm system chirped. "Bridge to Captain Reyes," Commander Davis's voice came through. "Go ahead, Commander," Elena responded. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. I think you're going to want to see this." Minutes later, Elena and Zara stood on the bridge, watching the view screen with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The face of Admiral Cheng, head of Earth's newly formed Interstellar Affairs Division, filled the screen. "Captain Reyes," the Admiral began, her expression a mix of excitement and gravity. "In light of recent events and the impending establishment of formal relations with the Lycurian Concordat, Earth Command has made a decision. We're initiating a new program, the Interstellar Exploration and Diplomatic Course." Elena felt her heart rate quicken. She had a feeling she knew where this was going. "The UES Horizon will be the flagship of this new fleet," Admiral Cheng continued. "Your mission will be to continue exploring the galaxy, making new contacts, and representing Earth's interests in interstellar affairs. Captain Reyes, we'd like you to lead this initiative." Elena stood speechless for a moment, the magnitude of the offer sinking in. She looked around at her crew, humans who had signed up for a mission of exploration and found themselves at the forefront of a new era for their species. Her gaze settled on Zara, who gave her an encouraging nod. "Admiral," Elena said, squaring her shoulders, "it would be my honor to accept this mission. The Horizon and her crew are ready to serve as Earth's ambassadors to the stars. As the transmission ended and the crew erupted in excited chatter, Elena felt a profound sense of purpose wash over her. The journey that had begun with a chance encounter had led to this moment, humanity taking its first real steps into a larger, more complex galactic community. There would be challenges ahead, no doubt. The Krell remained a potential threat, and there were surely other species out there, some friendly, others not. The accidental exposure that had transformed Zara hinted at technologies and phenomena beyond their current understanding. But as Elena looked at her crew, human and Lizerian, working side by side, with the promise of more alien allies to come, she knew they were ready to face whatever the universe had in store. "Helm," she called out, a smile playing on her lips. "Set a course for the unexplored sectors beyond Lizerian space. Let's see what's out there." As the Horizon's engines hummed to life, propelling them towards new adventures, Elena felt a thrill of excitement. The true journey was just beginning, and the horizons before them were limitless. The stars stretched into streaks of light as the ship jumped to warp, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of two species, and the promise of a new era of interstellar cooperation and discovery. The end, or perhaps just the beginning.